welcome to this interactive session between Krishnakumar Natarajan, co-founder of Mela Ventures, and Harshit Srivastava, co-founder and CEO of Intugine, on the future of supply chain visibility and more. As some of you may know, Mela Ventures has recently partnered with Intugine, leading their pre-series A round. We are thrilled to gain their B2B expertise and guidance and are all set to reach new heights. Welcome, KK. Welcome, Harshit.
Thanks,
Thank you. Happy to be in this conversation.
Let's start with you, Harshit. What are some of the recent events that have brought supply chain to the forefront of enterprises?
Thanks, Anisha, for the question. I think over the past couple of years, we have had a series of events and some macroeconomic trends, which basically brings the supply chain to the forefront and to the boardroom discussions. Some of these events, for instance, being the recent geopolitical disruptions, rising the inflation and oil prices, increasing uncertainty in the global supply chains. For instance, examples like Suez Canal, the blockage in Suez Canal, which caused millions of dollars of losses to enterprises. Events like global container shortage, which created bottlenecks in the global supply chain, is also an important function of increasing the chip prices across the globe. And also, I think post-pandemic, there have been trends of omni-channel distribution, where suddenly now enterprises have to focus on all modes of distribution, not just the traditional distributor mode or the retail mode, but also direct to retail, direct to consumer, modern trade, etc., which makes supply chain really complex and as well as an important differentiator from just being a cost center. So I think these are some of the events which brought supply chain to the center stage, which made it a boardroom discussion.
Right, very true. And I believe technology would play a huge role in solving some of these challenges that you just listed. So, KK, I just wanted to understand from you, what would the role of supply chain technology be in the transformation of this domain, and especially in emerging economies for the next decade?
That's a very interesting question, Anisha. At a high level, if you look at the demographics, the next decade is going to be the decade of Asia Pacific. Almost 60% of the aspiring population, which will be consumers, will be in this region. Coupled with that, I think supply chains are getting complex and global in nature. Today, any product does not depend on local manufacture alone, but depends on very many assemblies and sub-assemblies coming from various parts of the world. And since majority of the consumers are in Asia Pacific, this certainly gives the opportunity for solving complex problem here. Because supply chains are getting complex and global, they have gotten far more, I would say, in a manner in which they are not efficient. And there's an opportunity to reduce supply chain costs by good technology and planning, and companies could at least achieve a 5 to 10% reduction in supply chain technologies by adopting. Also, the trend in terms of ESG in companies is catching up. So when you talk about being more environmentally friendly, it means you're planning and optimizing your supply chain to reduce impact on the environment and consequently do your part for climate change. That in turn is driving supply chains towards more technology adoption. Now, and the other unique thing in terms of economies in Asia Pacific is that the solutions which worked in the Western economies will not work here. They were all very infrastructure led. If you look at US, there is such a developed roadway system, and trucks of very large capacities can move on those roads. But whereas you require local solutions for these economies, and already the inefficiency is high. Probably a country like India spends 14% of its GDP in supply chain, whereas in a country like US, it's probably in the 2 to 3%. So there's a huge headroom gap, and that can definitely be reduced to bring in better products at more competitive prices to aspiring customers. And that's how I think supply chain is going to really drive this process of consumption amongst the larger aspiring consumer base of Asia Pacific. And hence, we are very bullish of this area as a huge opportunity over the next decade.
Right, that's very true. The dynamics of the developed versus the developing nations do play a huge role over here. We've been building a robust visibility platform over the last 5 years. What, in your opinion, makes what's this recipe to a good visibility platform? Like, what are the constitutes of an effective visibility platform according to you?
Yeah, sure, Nisha. So, yeah, of course, visibility is the first step and the key step in the digitization journey of supply chains, right? And you can't improve what you can't measure. So visibility plays a central role in sort of finding the gaps across the supply chain. But if you talk about what really constitutes visibility, right, and the definition is evolving over time, but to give a broader sense, right, at the end we want the visibility solution to be able to measure how your goods are moving across the supply chain, how they are performing in transit, how is the loading process happening, how the unloading process is happening across multiple modes of transportation across the globe as you're importing and exporting goods, right? So a few important criteria to sort of fit into this framework is a visibility platform needs to be, I believe it needs to be multimodal, because almost all enterprises operate at least in 2 to 3 modes of transportation. So they don't purely operate, say, on trucks, or they don't purely operate in container movements in the ocean, but they have a mix of ocean movements while they're importing the raw goods, and then they have full truckloads when they're doing their stock transfer within warehouses. And a lot of them also have courier movements as well, where they do parcel and courier movements for urgent deliveries. Right. So it's a mix of 2 to 3 different modes in most of the enterprises, and hence it's important for the visibility platform to have that multimodal capability. At the same time, I think as visibility is evolving, one other key feature that we are seeing is the intermodal capability, where you're not just tracking across the modes, you're also tracking the handovers. As a piece of shipment is moving from road, then it's being handed over at the port in a container. Then that container goes to another continent, and then you have it loaded in another vehicle, right? So where the handshake happens between multiple modes of transportation across a global supply chain. So that's what we call intermodal capability, and that also becomes key as supply chains are evolving over the next few years. And as KK pointed out, supply chains are global, and they're going to stay global. You're going to import materials, raw material, you're going to export your goods as well, right? So the platform has to have a global capability, and I think more so in challenging markets like in Asia Pacific, where you have a lot of emerging geographies like India, Southeast Asia, parts of North Africa, which are still evolving, where the dynamics is very different. So the visibility, global supply chain visibility platform needs to have specialized capabilities for these emerging markets, and not just for, say, a developed market where you have a bare minimum infrastructure in place. And I think one more key trend that we are seeing, and KK also touched upon that, is the ESG, the carbon footprint angle. So visibility is not just the visibility of moving goods now, it's also the underlying carbon emission that's or the emission visibility, as we call it, caused by movements of these goods. So the first step is to bring visibility into the carbon emissions, the carbon footprint of a supply chain. And the second step eventually would be to drive recommendations on how to reduce it over time.
Right. And Intugine has been tracking over 10 million shipments for over 75 brands now. Could you elaborate more on, how we've been helping clients and how have they been benefited by visibility?
Sure, yeah. So I think I would start with the most, key value that we believe visibility brings, which is a happy customer. So for our enterprise clients, for them to make their customers happier, more satisfied, to improve their CSATs, we believe that visibility has a great role to play, because it's not just the product which matters, it's also the delivery experience that matters. So on-time delivery in good condition are some of the key metrics, and delivery itself, sometimes you don't get the product at all, right? So ensuring that it happens on time, it happens with the right quantity, is one of the key aspects. And visibility is the tool, and is probably one of the most important tools which can measure the delivery performance in real time, can help you improve that over time. So what we have seen is we could actually reduce the delayed deliveries by almost 40% in a matter of few months, as we started giving visibility to enterprises. And of course, it results in better CSAT. In some cases, it also results in reduction in loss of sales, hence improving your top line by half to 1%. So I think that's one key area of impact, which is customers and top line. The other area of impact is the bottom line, where we improve the margins of our customers. For example, in one of the large fashion apparel customer, we could reduce the inventory by 50%. So some $8 to $9 million of inventory got freed up in a matter of few months, as we gave them visibility and as they started clearing the bottlenecks of their supply chain, of their distribution. And that's a massive benefit that reduces the working capital, that reduces the cost of doing business. And in line to that, I think transit inventory reduction, safety stock reduction are some of the areas of impact. We could in fact see 2 to 4% of overall logistics cost reduction by the use of visibility. And then of course there are other benefits like better revenue recognition, bringing a single source of truth, so you have a right calculation for detentions and demurrages, and it doesn't become a daily debate as well. So overall, it provides more transparency to all stakeholders, and that transparency and accountability improves your delivery, reduces your inventory.
Great. And KK sir, just wanted to understand from you, what made you believe in Intugine, and what made you think that Intugine could be a category leader in this space?
We always at Mela Ventures believe in partnering with what we call fearless entrepreneurs who are wanting to make a sustainable business. And clearly in Intugine, we found a set of founders who are passionate, wanting to do the right things for the customers. Beyond the founding team, we certainly are also looking for businesses which are building technologies to solve problems, because technology, just for technology's sake alone, will not build a scalable and successful business. So in Intugine, we found a company which is really solving a complex and huge problem in a very simple manner, because adoption is really the key for benefits to come. So really solving a complex and huge problem with technology is something which really excited us. Beyond that, as we spoke to people in the market, like Harshit mentioned, the visibility across multiple modes is becoming a key pain point for customers whose supply chains are getting global. So really enterprises are looking for companies which can give them visibility in an integrated multimodal manner. And Intugine was able to demonstrate that across geographies. And that we think is a huge moat for the company. Yeah. The third element is beyond the technology superiority and the moat, is how quickly does the customer see the benefits? Are the benefits visible to them quickly? In Intugine's case, we saw, like Harshit shared, whether it was revenue enhancement of 1%, 2%, or improving inventory turns by 2-3 times and reducing inventory by 40-50%. Those sort of benefits are visible to the customer within a few weeks of adoption, which in turn makes customers very excited to leverage and adopt this solution. Now, so we think all these factors, solving a complex and huge problem with technology, but in a simple, intuitive manner, having a solution for an integrated multimodal visibility across geographies, and then ensuring customer benefits are visible across within a few weeks of adoption are three key things by which we think Intugine can become a global category leader in the supply chain visibility space.
Wonderful. I mean, we're thrilled to have Mela Ventures on board, and we can't wait to enable a lot more enterprises with real-time multimodal visibility. Thank you so much for your time, KK. Thank you so much for your time, Harshit.
Thank you so much, Anisha. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Anisha. Thanks a lot.